So good evening and good morning to all people who has joined on to this today's 17th. This is 17th Leadership Talk by Professor Ramgopal Rao. I feel honored to Less Academy feel honored to have his presence in virtual, but definitely in next few let's say days, let's request also to visit to IT campus. So to begin with it, on behalf of Academy and on my personal behalf, I would like to welcome you all. And to give you an idea about the Academy, the Academy has started its functioning in December 2021, and over one and a half year, we have progressed quite good, and started with the international lecture series, and there we had many multiple, let's say, eminent speakers. It started with the Sri Suresh Prabhuji and Dr. Naresh Rehan and Mr. Narayan Murthy ji and Dr. Paul Grumble. I can see him on the screen. He talked about AI, touched upon AI and leadership, and we had from Dr. Brightman. So there's a lot of galaxy of people who has given this talk their thought process onto leadership into various domains. So also we like to tell about everyone, those who are into the online mode, onto virtual attendees, all that in November 2022 last year, we had conducted a 2 days Women's Leadership Conclave as well, which was well received, and where we had Dr. Kiran Bediji and other leading women who really touched upon to the life. So our target is always that we have the people who has touched upon society, technical and other aspects. So just on the leadership. So with this initial remark about the Leadership Academy, I'd like to also introduce to you our Senior Executive Officer, Mr. Pranav Patel, who is going to join the Academy and soon. So he is master on Chanakya leadership. And so Pranav, can you just speak for a few minutes?
No, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Vashnik. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. We have a global audience, so welcome one and all. Pleasure to have you all on the webinar today. It's a great platform to be on, and joining Partha Ghosh Academy, which is an academy which focuses on a unique need of the hour, which we look at, the need of focusing on ethics principles, but in a manner which can address not just one facet, but multiple facets. And that's where we look at creating a leadership institute which focuses on Indian as well as the Western models. So I would say Indian and, the Western and the Eastern put together, trying to bring in a wisdom of both knowledges out. Indian wisdom, which focuses more on the internal growth of an individual, where we look at ethics, values, principles, looking at Vedic knowledge as the focus in that context. My personal study has been on Kautilya Arthashastra as one of the leadership treatise that we have in our great Indian, I would say, heritage that we carry. At the same time, we focus also on Western leaders. So you would have seen, and people who are joining regularly this webinar would have seen that we have speakers who come in from India, who are leaders in their own respective fields. At the same time, we also have people from the West who join in, starting when we had Narayan Murthy ji as an Indian stalwart. We had Gopal Krishnan sir. We had also people like Suresh Prabhuji and Kiran Bedi, who was also there as a part of the Academy's initiative, which we are doing. From the West, we did have Partha Ghosh sir himself, and then obviously Paul Grumble sir is also here, who is called the father of artificial intelligence. So we have had people like him also on the platform. We are looking at further developing the platform and looking at doing many more programs, initiative, where we can bring out this knowledge of Indian wisdom as well as the Western wisdom and bring it into present day contextual references. So looking forward to all your support, looking forward to everyone's participation in the kind of programs that we conduct, and also your support on everything that we do. So thank you very much. Looking forward to see you all in person as well as on all the webinars that we do. Over to you, Professor Vashnik.
Thank you, Pranav. So I feel honored as to introduce Professor Rao, and really he is an internationally acclaimed researcher and academician who has multiple centuries and half centuries. Multiple centuries, I mean to say, he has published more than 500 research articles in leading journals and 50 patents. And that's really the breakthrough. There's a 50 patents to his name. And then out of uh, 50 patents, 20 has been issued by US patents. And then 15 of his patents have been licensed to industries for commercialization. Really, that's a big achievement, sir. And the IP on CMOS uh, on system on chip application developed in his group now used in hundreds of millions of ICs sold over the world. So Professor Rao has already touched millions of people through his technologies. And Professor Rao is a co-founder of two deep technologies, the startups at IT Bombay, NanoSniff and Soil Sensor, which have successful commercial product in the market. So beside his education research activities, he is well known for establishing major nanoelectronics program in the country. For his research accomplishment, Professor Rao has been elected as a fellow of IEEE, a fellow of World of Academy of Sciences, Indian National Academy of Engineering, Indian Academy of Sciences, National Academy of Sciences, Indian Nation Science Academy, and many more. He has also have I think 52 students has been graduated by him, graduated in the sense PhD, and in area of semiconductor industries all over the world, his students are working, including India. Professor Rao research and leadership contributions have been recognized with over 35 awards and honors in the country and abroad. He is recipient of 3 honorary doctorates. The recognition of Professor Rao received includes Santi Sarup Bhatnagar Prize in Engineering Science, Infosys Prize, IEEE EDS Education Award, which is the highest international award bestowed by IEEE Electron Devices Society for Education, and many others. He served on several boards, advisory boards on various journals, all, and he has given more than 200 plenary and keynote invited lectures all over the world. So beside his regular teaching and research activities, he also serves as chairman for multiple committees at the national level related to education, research, and innovation programs in India. Currently, he is the chairperson for Council of Management for Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Advanced Scientific Research, JNCR, in Bangalore, and chairperson of Board of Governors for National Institute of Food Technology, Entrepreneurship and Management. Professor Rao has served as a director of IIT Delhi for the last 6 years, and after that he has joined BITS Plani, where he is currently is a vice chancellor for the Birla Institute of Technology Science. BITS Plani campuses located in Plani, Hyderabad, Goa, Dubai, and Mumbai. And sir, welcome to this Partha Ghosh Academy Leadership Forum. And over to you. We are all awaiting to listening your views on academic leadership. There has been some article long back. There is a deficit of academic leadership. Professor Rao also, many of us might be doing that. He writes wonderful on academics part onto various leading newspapers as well as the leading magazines. So over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Roshni. I'm very happy to be here with all of you. I see so many familiar faces, and I'm a little bit nervous to talk about leadership. Whatever I have done, I have learned observing many of these people. So I will just share my presentation and then show you what I have been doing. Is it shared now? No, you cannot see that, right?
It is there, sir. It's there.
Yes, perfectly.
We can see it.
That's very nice. So I will not talk anything about my research or, the sort of things I usually talk about, the research to product orientation and all of that. So, but here I will focus mainly on the academic leadership and the challenges, particularly, India has become a very difficult country to be a leader. To tell you, it's not very easy. And I was head of IIT Delhi. I'm in the hot seat in Delhi. you can imagine the kind of sort of problems I would have faced. I am a South Indian, a very simple South Indian. Managing Delhi for 6 years has taught me a lot of things. But I will try to be less negative and try to be neutral at least. So let us see how it goes. So I will also talk about these happy leadership strategies and all of that. And I mean, just before I start, why do I say that it's difficult to be an academic leader in India? Self-respect in Indians, now the self-respect per unit of achievement is very high. Those who are doing very well, it's sometimes so difficult to talk to them. I mean, that humbleness, that gratitude, that gratefulness, you don't see in many people. And particularly among bureaucrats and all of that, this is even much of a worry. And I think this is one thing that makes it difficult to work. And very poor culture of working as a team. Everybody is great, and but then if you put all these great people together, it becomes very difficult to make them do anything. Why should I listen to this person? And why should he be or she be ahead of me? And those sort of issues. When I was at IIT Delhi, I once met with a Japanese a company in India, which is a Japanese company in India. The MD of that company was a Japanese guy. So he told me, I mean, you were actually telling me that in India, every individual here, one Indian researcher can actually produce ideas equivalent to that of 5 Japanese. I mean, people are bubbling with ideas and so many new things they come up with. I'm very impressed with the innovation potential of all these people individually. But so therefore, one Indian is equivalent to 5 Japanese kind of a thing. But when I put 5 Indians together, their output is less than one Japanese guy. So that is what he said, which actually applies. I mean, when we are together, it's a bit of a challenge. So now for a leader to manage these teams is not very easy, and the aspiration levels are very high. I have seen people. I'm only talking of academic leadership because that is what I am very well aware of. I have seen IIT Bombay, IIT Delhi, and BITS Pilani, and of course the IIT system I know, very well because I've spent full 25 years in the IIT system. So the aspiration levels are very high. People even at the age of 35, think that they should have become deans and they should have become heads of departments, and there is nothing that should be stopping them from occupying all these positions, and that sometimes becomes an issue. And they are also very restless, and if they don't get what they want, it's a bit of a challenge to deal with them. So this is again a big issue. And being in a government kind of a system, the biggest challenge is neither there is fire in the belly sometimes, nor fire behind. So that as a result, many have retired. In fact, I know people. The sole reason for joining an IIT is to have an easy life. Worked hard in the US, earned some money. Now time to go back to India, join an IIT, and teach those 1 or 2 courses in a year, and be happy kind of a thing. I think that sort of mindset sometimes hurts us very badly. And so this is one big issue that we deal with. In fact, I was at IIT Bombay for 18 years. I moved to IIT Delhi and spent 7 years there. The biggest difference between IIT Bombay and IIT Delhi is in my 18 years at IIT Bombay, no one ever asked me to give any annual report at the end of the year. I mean, no self-appraisal. I never had to fill up a form about what am I doing for the institute. 18 years, I never had to fill up any self-appraisal form. And so I was free to do whatever I want or free to do nothing. So nobody would even bother me, what are you working on? How many papers have you written? That was the IIT Bombay culture, which is good, all flat culture. Then I moved to Delhi. Delhi takes the annual appraisals very, very seriously. There is a committee, everybody enters what they have done in the year, and a committee which looks at all of these appraisals, gives the faculty members a feedback. And because they do this appraisal religiously, there is a kind of an hierarchy that has got developed in IIT Delhi. So but is it good or bad? I would have enough data to show you that the per faculty output of IIT Delhi is 1.5 times that of IIT Bombay. Just because here is an institute which asks people at the end of the year, what have you done? Just that much of question. Nobody is going to terminate you. Nobody, there is no increments or anything. All increments are same for everyone. So there is actually no incentives for doing any of that. But then just the fact that somebody will ask you, somebody will look at what you have done in the year, sometimes makes people to function better. And I think that is something which I have learned, at IIT Delhi. IIT Bombay gets great people, but then because this institutional mechanism is not there to in a way appraise them or to look at their output and all that, they get evaluated only when they go to the next higher position. And so that's the only way it works. So now one needs to decide what is good in the system. Do you want to have a flat structure like IIT Bombay, where everybody is happy and nobody asks anyone, or do you want a structure like IIT Delhi, where the average output of faculty members is at least 50% higher compared to the peer institution? So now this is something that as a leader one needs to manage. And also we are seeing generation of students with very poor ethics and moral values. The parents have basically outsourced all of this upbringing to the institutions. They don't want to take any trouble, because parents don't the children don't listen to parents anymore. In all our families, I don't think our children listen to us anymore. So as a result, now all of the parental things, parental jobs have been outsourced to the institution. So we also need to teach them all of these, and by the time they come to IIT, it's sometimes very late. And it becomes a lot of a problem during, I know at IIT Kharagpur and in all our institutions, during the COVID time, the one demand that all students had was, we want physical classes and online exams, so openly and so blatantly. I mean, they had no reason to even justify why you can come to the classes for attending classes, but why you want examinations online. I mean, they grabbed the directors and they did all of that so openly. And that is the kind of a culture now that exists in our institutions. Every year, so many people getting caught cheating and all of that. That's one problem. Achieve at any cost kind of an attitude, this is also becoming very prevalent. The sort of disciplinary cases you see now in our institutions, you never expect that things can become so bad kind of a thing. So this is again becoming, if you push people too hard, they will produce you all the data that you require, right? But then the quality will suffer, and then all kinds of dubious means are utilized to arrive at that data, which is also not good. So therefore, that's becoming, if you become too objective in your assessment, then people meet all of those requirements. I was recently, chairing a committee. There is a committee called FIST. The FIST is a program of DST, which basically, tells, basically gives institutions money to acquire some equipment. So they have these conditions to be shortlisted. They said the 4 PhD, the institution should have this many PhD students. They have a number of, let's say, 12 students. All institutions will have minimum 12 students. And if they say we should have 20 students, all institutions will have minimum 20 students. So basically, you produce whatever you want the other side to be listening to. So that kind of a culture has become very prevalent now in our academic institutions. IITs are still better, but still I am seeing now that that sort of a quality standards dipping, and now I'm not sure where it will end up. But I think that's one problem. Lack of trust at all levels. Nobody trusts anybody. If you have taken a decision in favor of somebody or against someone, people attribute all kinds of motives to all of that. And just now I was, as many of you know, I'm active on social media. So I posted, somebody writes to me saying that, oh, you have joined BITS Pilani. That's why you did not give us a second choice for appearing JE advanced examination category. I mean, when I was a director, JE chairman, there was a huge demand for giving additional chance for appearing for the JE advanced exam. And as a committee, as a JE, it is done by all the IITs. We relax some rules, but we did not relax some other rules. So now that I have joined a private institution, and that person is saying that I had all of this in mind. I wanted to not allow students to go to JE IITs and rather to divert them to BITS Pilani. So that's the reason why I took that decision kind of thing. I never could have imagined in my wildest dreams that I would join an institution like this. But that is the level at which people are imagining now, are attributing motives to, many things that are happening in the institute. And it has become so difficult to take decisions because of that. And again, the biggest challenge with Indian institutions is lack of autonomy. There is hardly any autonomy in our institutions. Government appoints director, government appoints board members, government appoints board chairman. So everything is appointed by government, but they still say that, you write to us for every approval kind of a thing. So as a result now, or whatever decisions that we were able to take earlier at the board level are all now getting, elevated to the ministry level. So as a result, boards have become, less and less functional and less effective. Which I don't know. Again, I'm worried where that will all end now. The external interferences are there at all levels. There are ideology related interferences, there are political interferences, and everybody thinks that, something can be done in the country kind of a thing. So, which is again a pretty big challenge for a leader to deal with. Just to give you one example, when I was when we started the School of Public Policy at IIT Delhi, and so these people thought that they should admit students, based on, of course, one of the parameters they had was essay writing. Because many American schools, you do SOP, you look at multiple aspects of a candidate, of a student before the admissions are made. You give weightage to all the different things. And at IIT Delhi, people who came back from US thought that we should also follow a similar kind of a process. So they had this essay writing for as one of the some 20% weightage they had for the essay writing, and then they gave topics and people wrote, and that will be evaluated by some faculty members and will be considered as part of the admission process. I cannot even tell you that night how many calls I would have received from what levels up. I mean, you can name any level. I would have received a call from those levels saying that थोड़ा मेरा बच्चे का देख लीजिए वो essay submit किया है करके. So in fact, the success of IIT system, I would always say, is because of the JEE examination, which is completely objective. Whether it is good or bad, it works. Nobody can interfere with the examination because everything is transparent. You introduce anything where there is a subjective element, I can tell you our institutions will break down in just a matter of 5 years' time. So I think despite whatever challenges that we have with the JEE advanced examination for admissions, we must retain that objective criteria, and we must not move to anything which looks at, any other kind of an aspect which can be gamed in the system very, very easily. So I think that was a hard lesson, for me. When people ask why that exam has to be that way, there are these kind of people, that kind of people, we should also admit them. I say that, you relax those rules, bring in any subjective element, things will break down in the country. And for academic leaders, that will be very difficult to deal with. I say that running Indian institutions is like running on Indian roads. There are no rules. Many of these are this eye contact. You decide what is there on the other person's mind and do that. And government is like a backseat driver, always instructing, what to do, what not to do. And so this is the reality of the Indian situation right now. I think, to be able to run an institution in India currently, I would certainly think that, some of these kind of qualities are very essential. You need to be assertive, and you also need to be flexible at the same time. I mean, assertive because, you need to be seen as democratic. You need to be seeking the opinion of so many people, because if you start deciding things on your own, you will be called autocratic, and nobody would like that kind of an attitude. And finally, you won't be able to function at all. So you need to be seen as, consulting everyone, taking everybody's opinion. But finally, when it comes to taking a decision, you need to be assertive and, make sure that something eventually moves forward. So that has become very, very critical for leadership in India. You need to be honest, of course, but you also need to be empathetic. Right now in IITs, we are getting students from very diverse backgrounds. And if you just start applying rules blindly on them, I think it will be a disastrous kind of a situation. Now, if you look at IITs, over 80% of students are coming through some quota or the other. Over 80%. Only 20% of students are coming without any tax attached. Just general category, only 20% of students. You calculate, with the 20% girls supernumerary quota we have introduced now. So 80% of students are coming through, from different kind of for different to different channels, and that makes it very challenging to administer the campus, because the learning abilities are very, very different. And you put all of them in the same class, the class sizes have grown to now very unmanageable kind of levels. First year classes are like 400 students, 500 students in a class, and the ranks will be in a class in computer science at IIT Delhi. The ranks start at 20, end at 22,000. 20th ranker to 22,000 ranker in the same classroom, and in a class of 400 students. Obviously, there are going to be mental health issues. Obviously, there are going to be discrimination and all kinds of problems in the classroom. So I think this empathy factor is very, very important for the leaders. So what sort of support systems you would provide for them? How do you ensure their well-being? How do you ensure that they are not discriminated against? I think all of these have become, very important for academic leaders right now. I think the passion needs to be there, but a lot of open-mindedness is required. If you say that, it's all my way or no other way, it's not going to work at the end of the day. So for everything, you have to keep an open mind, consider all the options available, consult as many people as possible, and finally, take a decision. So if you are just wavering too much, then you can't do anything, because for every matter, everybody will have a different view, and that's again a big challenge. While a lot of people have a vision, but I think the drive I see, oftentimes missing. Like just with vision, alone you cannot do anything much. Everybody has a vision, but I think how much you can implement, how you can bring people together for implementing that vision is indeed becoming a pretty big challenging right now, because the senates of IIT Delhi, all professors in the institute serve on the senate of IITs. All professors, meaning in a large IIT like Kharagpur, Bombay, Delhi, Madras kind of places, there will be, close to over 200 professors. So any decision that you want to take, it has to go to Senate. And every Senate will have 200 faculty members, full professors, sitting on a judgment on every matter. Now you put 200 full professors in a room and make them to arrive at one single decision. I can tell you, no director is going to find it very easy. And I don't want to name, but some institutions are more difficult than other institutions. In some institutions, nobody attends. Then that's even easier for the director. As a result, sometimes you also tend to make a lot of mistakes because there is no consultation. Nobody cares about senates. Director can do whatever he or she wants. And I think that is another extreme. But in many institutions, senates are very, very active, very, very vocal. And in some institutions, directors have not been able to do anything because they just cannot get anything passed through the Senate. So that is another big challenge. And while you want to be accessible, a open door policy, we all now, preach for leaders that anybody should be able to come and talk to you. But the problem with that is, many people will actually come and tell you, lots of things. And you need to be objective in assessment. You need to know, of course, you can absorb all these viewpoints, but at the end of the day, you have to make your mind on, who is the person to be involved in the team, what are the kinds of people you have, all of that will require a lot of clarification. And then somebody needs to mute their microphone. Yeah. And another thing is, achieve and publicize. This is also becoming very, very important. There are certain things which are happening very well in Indian academic institutions, but people don't publicize well. Some institutions are very shy of talking about what they are doing. I think those days are gone now. We need to, if you are achieving something, you also need to publicize. I can take that credit because I was that way the first director ever from the IIT system, to be easily accessible on the social media channels. I was connecting with people on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, and everywhere. So I was posting, and I think that helped me. Particularly, I would say LinkedIn was very helpful. To make a lot of profession. I don't know. Maybe I should not be promoting one or the other, but I think some channels have been very useful compared to the others. But that's very important. Now, while you might have achieved certain things in the institution, it's very important to publicize, because 50% in the rankings, in international rankings, anywhere from 40 to 60% in international rankings is just perception. And if you are not talking about your institution, you would lose out on that. While you may be great in research and citations and all of that, since perception is almost 50% in these rankings, if people don't know what you are doing, you are not going to really do well in the academic rankings. In fact, with IITs particularly, in international rankings, this is the biggest challenge. On perception, on an average, the top 5 IITs now, the older IITs, are scoring something like 22 marks out of 100. Our average score is 22 out of 100 in terms of the perception for the top 5 IITs. And there we take a major beating. Even some unknown universities, second-rated universities in Western countries actually score much better than us when it comes to that. And this is also very important. I have seen, directors who are very hardworking, but they also don't delegate. They want to do everything themselves, and they get into these nitty-gritty details of everything that they are doing. As a result, they don't have time for the bigger issues. This is also, while you are working hard, I think delegation is also very, very important in this. And this selfless and generous nature is very important. And I think institutions eventually imbibe the culture of the leader. So if the leader is somebody who is very vindictive and very arrogant and all of that, slowly that culture also percolates down in the institution. So it's very important for the top leader to be seen as generous, as somebody who is honest, who is sincere, who is hardworking, because people observe and then try to imbibe some of those qualities. It's very important to be actually doing so. I think the commitment is important, but putting institution first is very critical. I see that not always that happens in our institutions, and sometimes you need to take decisions which are not in favor of some individuals. There are lots of disciplinary cases going on in every institution, and if you don't take any action, then you are encouraging that kind of a behavior, which is not going to work. So I think at some point, you have to take those tough decisions, put institute ahead of individuals. I think you will be blamed for that, but at the end of the day, you cannot really help that. And I always say that all of us are villains in someone's story. I think that is eventually what you end up with. I mean, you cannot be nice in everybody's story, and some people will treat you as a villain, and that would happen if you are occupying any of these positions. Having said that, this is what I believe our institutions need to move towards. This is what I will show you in the next 2-3 slides in the next 10 minutes, how exactly I try to accomplish this. The multidisciplinary in our educational offerings. The one problem with IITs is we are very siloed. We just focus on engineering. That's what many IITs are doing. IIT Kharagpur is that way much more comprehensive than any other IIT. There is law, there is now medicine and management, and all of them have been there at IIT Kharagpur. But many institutions, even IIT Delhi was very siloed, not much in other disciplines. And same was true of other IITs. But I think this is something that, at least in my time, we tried to change to a large extent. We need to be locally engaged, but globally networked, right? This is, for example, at IIT Delhi, we started a Unnat Bharat Abhiyan program. The idea was to connect, academic research with problems in the rural areas under the Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. But at the same time, we were actually starting multiple international joint PhD programs. So this is what I would say, locally engaged and globally networked. While you are doing things, technology can be local, but science is global. So I think to develop science, you need to be connected with all the best institutions who are better than you. So that's very critical for our institutions. And having innovation and entrepreneurship as major drivers, particularly at IIT Delhi, after I joined, when I looked at IIT Delhi has 33 unicorn founders among its alumni. 33, almost 1/3, every third unicorn founder comes from IIT Delhi. And I did not know what is that IIT Delhi is doing so differently, that all these people graduating from IIT Delhi are actually going out and starting companies. I was also puzzled. I wanted to understand myself, what is that we are doing differently that, we can do more of that. so that there can be more unicorns and there can be more entrepreneurship and all of that. And when we started looking at it, when we started looking at the profiles of all these unicorn founders who have come out of IIT Delhi, basically these guys are all Agarwals, Bansals, Mittals, and people from certain communities, because the traditionally IIT Delhi has attracted people from business families, right? And so these people who came from business families, eventually get a degree, but that business sense is there in their veins, and finally they get out of the institute and get back to business. That's what many of them did. And those who are after IIT Delhi fills up, many people came to BITS Pilani and doing traditionally, and many as a result from BITS Pilani are also from business communities. So BITS Pilani, for example, has 13 unicorn founders. So and if you look at all of their profiles and everything, that is the sole reason. So the nature of students who came to certain institutions, basically made those institutions, develop that flavor. Whereas other IITs, some IITs have a large number of government children of government employees. Some IITs have a mixed kind of a bag, but IIT Delhi or even BITS Pilani have people, who have traditionally been attracting people from the business communities, and that has made a huge difference to the innovation culture in these institutions. So that at IIT Delhi, we wanted to strengthen it further, and we wanted to, because one thing we realized was all those unicorns that came out of IIT Delhi, all of them say that we got those ideas when we were on the campus. Flipkart, all of them say that, no, we got that idea when we were in the campus, but we started the company after we graduated, and then they made them into unicorns kind of a thing. The question we asked ourselves is, if only we can incentivize them to incubate that company within the campus, let's say Flipkart incubating within the campus with some funding coming from the institute. At that very preliminary stage, even 3 lakhs, 4 lakhs kind of a money would have been considered a big money, because they just had an idea, nothing else. So we thought, let's now not lose out on these Flipkarts and Snapdeals kind of a thing. Let's start investing in these very early stage ideas of students, with the hope that if they form that company and if some of them become unicorns later, that 2%, 1% of equity we will have will be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So with that idea, we started multiple schemes. We literally started to fund every student idea, with the hope that some of them will eventually become Flipkarts and Zomatos kind of a thing. So that was something which we did very aggressively at IIT Delhi, trying to see if it can give us some returns over a period of time. This is something I'm going to talk about in my next slide: diversified financial model. In IITs, the tuition fee component is just about 6 to 7%. So tuition fee component being just 6 to 7%, the remaining 93% of money, we are dependent on the government of India. So we just have no other source of income. We do a lot of sponsored research, but there are no overheads. The average overheads institutions earn today is about 5%. And because the average overheads are 5%, the actual money required to conduct a research, or actual money required to execute a project, we calculated at IIT Delhi, it comes to about 9 to 11% kind of a thing. You are actually spending more money in conducting or in executing the project than receiving any overheads out of the project. As a result, the more research we do, the worse you become, because the overheads are less than the actual expenditure incurred in conducting the project. So with that kind of a situation, research doesn't pay in India. Institutions become worse if they are establishing major facilities, and because there are no overheads, after 3 years, the faculty member comes back to the institute saying that, I want maintenance contract, I want to keep this equipment running. Now, please support me from the institute and all of that. That has become a big burden, for many institutions right now. And I think that is where the American institutions we have a lot to learn from them. American institutions have taken it too far in terms of privatization, but Australia has a good model. In fact, I have been writing about it. Australia has a model called HELP, Higher Education Loan Program, where the very interesting aspect of Australian program is it is not a loan. Government basically pays you money to study in a university. Once you graduate, right? Once you take up a job, when you cross a certain threshold of salary, then you start paying back a percentage of your salary to the government, which will eventually go to the alma mater. So you are not taking a loan. So you are essentially supported by the government under the HELP program. And when you graduate, when you take up a job, when your salary exceeds about 40,000 Australian dollars per year, then you start paying back a percentage of your salary to the government. And I think that doesn't burden the students with loans and other things like in the American system. I think what we need is a mixture of the American and the Australian model. Australia has a very nice model, which there's a lot we can learn from. So this diversified financial model, I will have a slide to tell you, what more can be done. And I think another thing which is also important is conversion of knowledge to wealth is very important. And primarily, I see that because, we have been taking government money and the output in all these cases is publications. When somebody says, what have you done with that 20 lakhs I have given you, we show a list of papers. And that is what we think is eventually the outcome of any project that we have done. I think that is not going to be sufficient. So while in fact I have data to show you that per dollar spent, Indians are writing more papers than anybody in the world. We are ranked number 1 in the world today in terms of per dollar terms, how many papers can you write? But when it comes to converting that knowledge, all that knowledge that is contained in the paper back to wealth, we are nowhere. In fact, hardly anything becomes wealth, out of the research funding that we receive. So that's one big challenge that we have. I think the student-centric and flexible curriculum, tightly integrated with out-of-class learning is also important. Here there is something, for IITs to learn from BITS system, for example. BITS runs a dual degree program very, very effectively. In fact, I was very amazed to see, I've been in the BITS system for slightly close to 6 months now. In BITS is the only institute in the country today where you can do a bachelor's, a BE in, let's say, mechanical engineering, and you can also couple it with MSc in chemistry. I mean, which institute in this country allows you to do BE in mechanical engineering and MSc in chemistry? You can have any amount of combinations here for the dual degree, and a large section of students are actually going for dual degrees here, unlike in IITs where they think it's a burden on them, making them to stay for one more year, because we tend to allocate the dual degree master's program specialization at the time of admission itself, and students just don't want to do that specialization, but we in a way force them to do so. In BITS, it is very, very different. The dual degree programs, the way they do it here, is something to learn out of that in terms of flexible curriculum and all of that. And BITS also is another place where you can choose your teachers. The first year classes are being taught by multiple teachers, and students can choose whichever teacher they want, kind of thing. And they are not, that way good teachers attract a lot of students. And if you're not teaching well, you would not even have any students, kind of thing. Some of these, I think are also very important. And having a major chunk of curriculum dedicated to social sciences, ethics and leadership skills, which we are not teaching enough in our institutions. At IIT Delhi, at least 15% of curriculum in the BTech programs is humanities, which is much less in other institutions. So one in, let's say, 6 or 7 courses is actually offered by the humanities department. So that sort of changes have taken place now. And also having a diverse set of faculty. During my time at IIT Delhi, we started professors of practice, and that picked up very well. And in many departments, these people with industry backgrounds coming and joining have transformed the culture of the entire department. And that I think we need to be doing more. We also tried these joint appointments with industries. We said, can we hire a faculty who wants to come back from US, but doesn't want to come back because our salaries are very low. So we said, can we join hands with Microsoft? And then the faculty member joins IIT. Microsoft pays 50% of salary. We pay 50% of salary. But the faculty member can work for Microsoft and do their job part-time, our job part-time. And that sort of joint appointments, what we explored, didn't go too far. But the process of practice thing which we started, we said 10% of faculty in the institute can be process of practice. So that has worked very well for IIT Delhi. Here I advertised a similar professor of practice positions in BITS. We received 200 applications from senior industry leaders who want to be associated with the institute. I see that there is a hunger from industry people to get associated with institutions. So we need to provide enough avenues for them to connect with us. I would think having more such good people from industries working in academia can transform the culture of the industries. The industrial R&D is very well, and here more collaborative research model than transactional model. The consultancy projects are mostly transactional kind of a thing, but what we need are the more collaborative kind of research. This, despite whatever we may say, hasn't really picked up very well in India. I mean, as a result, with the lack of academia industry collaboration, our research doesn't have much of a relevance. That is our biggest challenge. Otherwise, a lot of research is happening, but the relevance part of it isn't coming in because we are not neither are we connected with ministries other than Ministry of Science and Technology, nor are we connected with industries because they are all very kind. They want to provide all things in kind, but if you ask them to provide some real funding for conducting research, it's not very easy to come by. So that's again one big challenge. So I have been advocating everywhere that make it mandatory for these industries to spend a kind of a fraction of the CSR or even a fraction of their revenues. Either you provide them, let's say, tax incentives so they can collaborate with academia, or make them spend part of their corporate social responsibility money on the academic institutions. Unless we mandate or unless we encourage through policies, I think just by preaching that industry should collaborate with academia, I don't think anything is going to change in this country. So there is a major policy intervention is required to kickstart the academia industry collaborations. Without that, I am doubtful whether it will ever change. And today, one good thing that's happening is the startups are acting as a bridge between academia and industry. So, which is something that has happened, that is happening in our institutions. While industries don't want to directly engage with a faculty member, they don't mind getting engaged with the startup. The startup will have a faculty member, but then they want to work with the startup more than with academic research and all of that. And many of them are investing in these startups and taking equities and giving grants. So I think that part probably will transform some of these aspects. But otherwise, I do think some policy interventions are required in order to bring academia and industry closer in this country. This financial model is something that I have been studying and I have written about it. This is a thing which I have put together. I have had an executive assistant at IIT Delhi. So we looked at all the annual reports. We looked at whatever is available on the web pages, and we looked at different countries, and we looked at the public and private universities in these countries. For example, in US, the public funded universities, the private universities, Singapore, Hong Kong, Europe, Australia and India, 3 institutions we took: IISc Bangalore, IIT Delhi, IIT Bombay, and IIT Kharagpur won't be any different. It will fit into one of these 3 institutions anyway. So we looked at what is their sources of income? Where does the money come into these institutions? What are the sources? So we looked at the government subsidies and grants. So this is the government subsidies and grants. Sponsored research and research income. So this is the sponsored research income. And then revenue from tuition fee. So this is the revenue from tuition fee, right? This orange one. In IISc, all postgraduate students, they pay money. They hardly receive any money. And endowment and investment return. So that is this is the endowment and investment returns. And this is other income, small kind of things. That these are typically interests on some deposits that you have and all of that. This is what you can see. IISc, if you see, almost 70% of the money that comes into the institute comes as a grant. It's a block grant, right? And then the 21% comes as sponsored research projects. In this 21%, again, a major chunk of it is from DST, DBT or MIT, the Ministry of Electronics, again, some source of government only. And then the endowment and investment, 7%, 2%, 3% kind of. So as you can see, primarily government supported. Up to this point, it's all government supported. So, and you look at IIT Delhi, similar kind of a picture. The revenue from tuition fee is 6% because IITs have at least some undergraduate classes. So our revenue is 6%. 31% is the money that comes in from the sponsored research. This is not overhead amount. This is actual money that is given as grants, and 6% from endowments and other income. So again, it stops here. Up to this point, it's all government mandated kind of a thing. And IIT Bombay is also a similar picture. Now look at the US universities. So even the public funded US universities, if you see, the government grants are only 1/4 of the total income. The rest of the income, the tuition is about 22. Of course, ASU is slightly different, but in other public funded universities, the tuition is at least 20 to 30% kind of thing. And so tuition is not very low. They have all these need-based scholarships. So you have a higher tuition, but if you need scholarship, you provide them. In India, it's not the case. Whether whoever you are, everybody pays the same kind of a fee here. And so this is what the US universities are. And the private universities in the US, of course, they don't have the government grants. So this is how, for example, MIT, funding comes from revenue from tuition fee. MIT doesn't need to charge or earn much from tuition fee, but their research, sponsored research income is 47%. So MIT is essentially running on the research money, the research dollars that they generate. 22% comes from endowments and all that. So this is that line, which is very prominent in the American universities. And the endowments which they have been able to build, particularly the American private universities, are doing extremely well when it comes to these endowments. And this is something that is missing totally, even in Europe, it's hardly have there. So I think in other countries, that kind of a culture is missing. At IIT Delhi, after we looked at all of this, we thought, can we modify or move to a different kind of a financial model? What is the financial model? In the interest, I won't go into all the details, but we said, can we move to this quarter kind of a thing? The tuition will be about 25%. So you have a higher tuition for masters and bachelor students, but whoever needs support, you provide them the support, and that support can come from the endowment fund. So we said, can we go to a level where, let's say, at least 1/4 of our income comes from the endowment funds, right? So IIT takes about, to run an IIT today, government grants are about 600 to 700 crores, right? And IITs raise about 200 to 300 crores as the research income. So 900 crores. But the other, if you see, the total expenditure, total money that goes into a large IIT is about 1,000 crores. That's a kind of a money that goes into an IIT today. And so we said, out of which, can we have this sort of a model where the endowments revenue from tuition, is like 13-14%, and then the endowments returns, we would have about 28%, and then the other income, of course, and then the sponsored research will be. So this is a kind of a model that we wanted to move towards, and then diversify our income sources. And so that was one thing which we were looking at. We launched the endowment fund. I am not sure how many of you are aware of, but IIT Delhi, during when I was the director, we launched a $1 billion endowment fund. And if you search on Google, on YouTube, for example, IIT Delhi Endowment Fund, we started with a Hindi song. I mean, a Bollywood style song, because in India, the only two things that connect people are, one is Bollywood, the other is cricket, right? I mean, everybody is so emotional. So we actually had an alumnus to write a beautiful Bollywood song, Vikram Gupta. He also sang that. And that song, which was about IIT Delhi, went viral. And I have seen students listening to that song and crying literally. I mean, that was a kind of a emotional connect, that song had. You just search IIT Delhi endowment song, and it's a beautiful song. And we then pictured all the alumni who have built unicorns in that. And so the players, the pictures you see are people walking and, doing something. They are all alumni, and they all have built unicorns, most of them. And they have expressed an interest to be part of the endowment fund. So once we got those expressions of interest, we pictured them in that, and we made it all look like a nice Bollywood song, and that triggered a whole giving back kind of a thing. And we then said, we went to Rashtrapati Bhavan, President of India, said, can we launch IIT Delhi Endowment Fund in Rashtrapati Bhavan? Rashtrapati Bhavan said, then we had a lot of negotiations. And then we came up with a kind of a concept that anybody who pledges 5 crores to IIT Delhi will get to attend that function in Rashtrapati Bhavan and have chai with President of India, right, along with the spouse. So now you have chai with President along with spouse if you pledge 5 crores to the institute. So that was the deal with Rashtrapati Bhavan. And Rashtrapati Bhavan, despite being a public institution, public kind of a place, they stuck to that. There was a lot of pressure from some alumni who were actually politicians. They wanted to get into that thing. They said nothing doing unless you are giving 5 crores, you cannot attend this party. So that night in Rashtrapati Bhavan, we raised 265 crores. And people actually flew in from all over the world, just to be part of that function. And they pledged 265 crores. And IIT Delhi, suddenly, jumped up our income from alumni. Then we created an endowment fund, and we made founders, co-founders kind of a concept. Anybody who gives 10 crores becomes a founder of endowment fund. Anybody who gives 5 crores becomes a co-founder. And among those founders and co-founders, we make an alumni committee, a board, right? Along with the director, one of them will be the co-chair. And then entire fund that we generate from alumni is managed by the board. Because when we went to alumni, the questions they asked are, what is the guarantee that if we give you money, government will not take it away? There were instances, Professor Acharya is here, he knows that. There were instances when government said, first you spend your endowment money, then we will give you grants, kind of a thing. There were all kinds of policy changes at the government level. So alumni were very skeptical. They said, if we give money, if government takes it away, then what's the point? It's my hard-earned money. So we said, we will change that. We created a Section 8 company. And the Section 8 company, they are giving money to IIT, but that money is actually, it is managed by the Section 8 company. And that Section 8 company, all agreements, we made legal agreements which are binding on everyone, that the money cannot be spent without alumni deciding as a board what to do with that money. So only the interest earned will be spent. And so that's a typical endowment fund kind of a concept. But then who will approve that? So we went to Ministry of Education. Ministry has actually approved that entire model, the template that we were proposing. And they said all institutions can now follow this template. And 5% of money we receive will be used to manage the endowment fund. So that was the deal, that if we are receiving 100 crores in a year, the 5 crores can be used to manage the endowment fund, meaning you can hire people, you can have a CEO to manage the endowment fund and all of that. So that 5% concept is working very well. At IIT Delhi, the highest paid employee today, at least during my time, was not the director. It's actually the CEO of the endowment fund. That guy's salary was twice my salary. And that was because you want a CEO who would raise money. His salary will not come if he is not able to raise money. I don't have to worry about my salary, though it's small, it comes from government. But his salary will only come, when he raises money, only when that 5% is sufficient for whatever salary that he is taking. So we had a complete team for the endowment fund, and we had a nice office for them. And I still say that the highest paid salary at IIT Delhi employee is the CEO of the endowment fund. The best office is also the endowment office. So that is what we created, and that worked very well. So at least during my last 2 years, we touched 100 crores per year kind of fund. And previously, I will have one slide to show you that. So that endowment fund took off, and all that we needed to do was bring in the transparency and tell the alumni that, this is how we are ring fencing your money, and you only can, decide what that money will be used for. It worked very well. And so that was what we did. And, I always say that this idea factory approach is very important. IITs, my biggest, complaint about IITs is we are very homogeneous. Nobody talks to anyone else. Great people, but they're all working in their own silos and doing research. So I was primarily looking at how do we create this idea factory kind of an approach. To create that, bring unlike minds together. And how do you make these very unlike people? How do you make a chemistry faculty member to teach, to collaborate with the electrical faculty member? So we did that through a program called, FIRP, Faculty Interdisciplinary Research Program. So when I say unlike minds, unlike in terms of cultural backgrounds. So we started during my time a joint degree program with University of Queensland and with another university in Taiwan. So the 2 joint PhD programs we started. We actually announced a 500 PhD fellowships for international students. This is called International PhD Fellowship Program, because at the BTech level, you cannot admit any international students. But at the PhD level, you want to have good PhDs coming and doing research with you. So we announced 500 PhD fellowships for international students. From 30, 40, now we have about 150 PhDs at IIT Delhi doing PhD. International students and faculty, international campus. In fact, I was the one who wrote that letter in 2020 to Ministry of Education, saying that please allow us to open a campus in the Middle East. I had one country because that country promised to invest money for building the campus and all that. So we wrote a letter to ministry saying that allow us to open a campus in this country in the Middle East. They have agreed to fund and all that. And then finally Abu Dhabi was allotted, but Abu Dhabi government is actually funding, so that's not a bad decision. And the idea of international campus was IITs are losing a lot of points because we don't have enough international students. The average score the 5 IITs are scoring in international students, international faculties, we are getting something like 2 marks out of 100 for international IIT. 2 out of 100. That is another place where we lose our ranking significantly. One place is perception, 20 out of 100. Another place is international students and faculty, 2 out of 100. So we said, how do we increase international students? Our idea was you have this international campus, you admit students there, through the BS program. We don't want to start BTech program there. BTech is still to the JEE Advanced. So then you admit students in the BS program, bring them to campus, for 1 semester or 2 semesters. So that way you can have more international students coming to your campus. That would boost your ranking significantly. So that was the whole model. And so that is what we need to do. Another unlike minds, I say, is different disciplinary training. So we started a school called School of Interdisciplinary Research, School of Public Policy. I started at least 10 new academic units at IIT Delhi. All of them have this international, all of them have this interdisciplinary flavor. So none which is a pure discipline kind of a thing. So whether it is School of Public Policy or School of AI, the idea is to have people with diverse disciplines coming and working together. We also tied up with all these institutions in Delhi, like AIIMS, All India Institute of Ayurveda, Indian Council for Agricultural Research. So all these institutions we had saying that we fund our faculty, you fund your faculty. They both work with each other for 2 years. After 2 years, they will go out and get research funding. So we called this program FIRP, Faculty Interdisciplinary Research Program. We invested from IIT Delhi close to about 8 crores or so, and with the condition that after 2 years of receiving this funding and collaborating with your counterpart in another department, you need to go out of the institute and get external grants, meaning you need to submit proposals outside. That 8 crores, 10 crores we spent, we received at least 10 times more money as external project. So that has shown a significant improvement in our sponsored research funding. And people with different attitudes, here again the industry connect. We started an industry day, the process of practice positions, joint advanced technology center with DRDO. So a lot of these things we did. So this is what unlike minds is. I think if you bring in that inhomogeneity in our institutions, people interacting with those who are not like them, either culturally or discipline wise or attitude wise, that is when you have a lot of new ideas, and that is when your research, you can write good papers. And so that we did through funding. All of these required funding, but for that we needed to generate money and actually execute that. So once you have ideas, then we started to focus on startups. You have ideas, you are working on that idea, what next? So you need to be able to incubate a company eventually. I'm actually very proud of this program. I called it 1, 2, 3, 4 Discover and Learn. This is exactly what I started even in BITS also about 3 months ago. One problem I saw was all our students in final year, they start doing a project, or in any year they start doing a project. When they graduate, they leave the project and go away. Then the next student comes and then starts all over again. So every project reaches a certain stage and ends there. So I said, that we should not do. We will have every group will execute a project. Each group will have one first year student, one second year student, one third year, and one fourth year. When the fourth year student graduates, a first year student comes in. So these are like the relay projects. They never end. They continue to progress. And with this, you keep filing IP and all that. And at some stage, you can start a company and all of that. And we started holding exhibitions after 3 years of funding these 1, 2, 3, 4 programs. We started holding exhibitions. Many of those 1, 2, 3, 4 projects are now startups at IIT Delhi, have raised significant amounts of money. So that was one successful scheme, a relay kind of a mode project execution at the undergraduate level. So these are the very bright students. And if you give them a right set of problem which has social relevance, make them work in a group, in a relay mode, I can tell you a lot of good things can happen. So we started funding them internally, a few lakh rupees, and made a significant, sort of an impact on the culture of innovation. So that were some of the things that we did. And then even in our rankings, because we are now, publishing more papers, getting more research funding, generating, more money out of the system, it also showed up in our rankings. IIT Delhi, when I joined, this was our QS engineering technology ranking. This was our overall ranking in NIRF. This was our NIRF engineering ranking. So we kept on getting better and better. When I left IIT Delhi, we internationally engineering, we were ranked 47, overall third, and engineering second, only behind IIT Madras kind of a thing. So this definitely showed its impact on that. And even during COVID time, we were able to, because we were channelizing all the efforts towards one single problem, COVID, a lot of great things happened. We came up with the world's most affordable corona kit, 50 rupee antigen kit, multiple masks and other things. So this also we filed 153 patents in 2020 during the peak of COVID. And many of these technologies we were able to license. And I think that is what is the thing that is required. India, there is a lot of talent. I mean, ISRO, these are all our own students, right? So when they reach ISRO, they perform very well. A lot of satellites and the moon landing, all of that has happened. What is the only reason why it happens there is these are all done in a mission mode kind of a way with very clear objectives. In ISRO, you may have 12 or 13 labs. At the end of the day, whatever you do, you have to fly a satellite, and that satellite has to do certain job. Once you define the end goal, Indians actually do very well. Now, if you look at India's history, whether it is a space or defense or atomic energy, in all of that, once a clear goal is set, we delivered, right? But where clear goals are not set, we can go all over. If you have 500 faculty, they will be working on 400 problems. And finally, some incremental thing will happen, but nothing substantial will come out of it. During COVID, fortunately or unfortunately, everybody was working on COVID. And now as a result, from one single institute, we could actually produce, so much of an output. And when we looked at almost 15 million people have benefited from the technologies developed at IIT Delhi. And this would have happened with every institute where if you are able to set clear goals, Indian institutions can actually do very well. So therefore, leadership is very important in setting goals. And if you can, do these grand challenges kind of a thing in our institutions and provide them sufficient funding, I can tell you the same faculty members will actually meet all of the, targets that you set as grand challenge. But if you don't do that, just allow people to do what they want to do, nothing will come out. They will publish papers, but nothing substantial can ever come out, because that is where the grand challenge kind of an approach is very important for our Indian institutions. We also, because one of the things at least I looked at as my job at IIT Delhi was to generate funds, revenue, generate money. That I took upon myself as my most important requirement activity as a director. So I was always on my toes, trying to get money for the system. During my time, we started all of these, centers of excellence at IIT Delhi. Many from government sources, some from industries, some from DRDO, one from ISRO. We started a ISRO Space Technology Cell. From alumni, Renew Power, YARD gave quite a bit of money for the sustainable infrastructure. To alumni, to government, to industries, we created the centers of excellence. We created, we said 10 crores is the minimum to start a center of excellence. Where center of excellence is something which is a unit where, it will exist as long as funding is there. All faculty from different departments can come and work together on the objectives that are defined in the center of excellence. And once the funding ends, then you go back to your department. So these are not permanent kind of entities. So this model worked very well for IIT Delhi, because you can create a center, but the centers are seen as permanent units in our system. And once you start, closing it is a big challenge. So that's why creating these sort of, temporary kind of activities where people can bring money, work with each other, and then work as long as that area remains relevant. And, so that if you bring people together, right, if you solve the problem of bringing people together, I would say they will solve all your other problems. The entire, but to bring people together, you need to invest money, and that money you need to raise from whatever sources that is possible. I think that to me is very important for a leadership now. So in fact, intellectual property, IIT Delhi until this time, as you can see, was filing patents, but 50, 60, 40 kind of a thing. And during my time, we reached a peak of 173 patents in 2020. And this is the total IP filings. And so we have, strengthened the ecosystem for filing of patents. And that has really done wonders for IIT Delhi. I would think all our large IITs are capable of publishing at least 200 patents per year. Why are these patents important? Because once you have certain portfolio of patent, we have done enough studies to do the show that unless you cross that 1,000 patent mark, you can't really expect any revenues out of your patents. If you have one patent there, one patent here, nobody will bother. But if you have a portfolio of patent in a certain area, one thing is it will improve your startup culture. Many more startups will come out because now you have those IP protected. And secondly, your revenues from IP licensing will also go up. In fact, during my time, the royalty income crossed 1 crore per year. So that happened because of particularly during the COVID time, we raised quite a bit of money from royalties and technology licensing kind of thing. 18 patents we licensed, 18 patents on COVID we filed, 13 patents we licensed to industries, and which got us quite a bit of revenue during that time. And even the research funding, because we were bringing people together, we were aggressively pursuing research money from various agencies, including industries. This was how IIT Delhi was doing in terms of research funding. These are all in crores, right? And then we actually started to raise quite a bit of money, the research money. As you can see, in 1 year, we crossed 555 crores, 386 crores, 340 crores. So I think that was a substantial jump in our funding at IIT Delhi because of, again, bringing these COEs and making people work with each other, connecting with institutions outside IIT Delhi. I think that was all what was needed. The alumni donations, IIT Delhi, every year was making 1.1 crore during this, 6.9 crores during 2017-18. I joined in 2016, and we started to focus on Alumni Connect in a significant way. And we actually raised, the 265 crores, and then this is actual money received is now touching 100 crores per year kind of a thing. And all that happened because of, that aggressive connect with alumni, launch of the endowment fund, and then having alumni to manage that fund as board members. I think, some of these structures have definitely helped build the trust in alumni that they can give back to the alma mater and the money will be properly utilized. I think that was all what was required for alumni to, actually contribute money. And IIT Delhi, during my time, we created a lot of these centers of excellence. The number of funded projects increased by 3x, and publications have also crossed 10x. We started connecting with industry aggressively. We actually started, during my time, we started a Dean Corporate Relations, a Dean's office for essentially corporate relations. And then we built a team, and we said, your salary will come from a percentage of the money you get from the industry. So if you are able to get 10 crores, a percentage of that money will go towards your salaries. So we started creating these cost centers, whether it is endowment fund team or the alumni or the corporate relations team. You earn money, so you get paid. And you earn more money, you get more payments. We will get more bonuses. So once we created those cost centers, things started looking very different, because until that time, institute will give money to everybody and then there is not much of a motivation. But this cost center kind of an approach, really turned things for IIT Delhi. We also aggressively recruited new faculty to sustain this growth, and we started about 10 new academic units. And IIT Delhi filed in 55 years about 500 patents. In the last 5 years alone, we filed another 500 patents. So that was the kind of a significant jump in number of patents, 4x increase in the research funding and startups. And we also looked at how many faculty are engaged in funded research project. So it was about 40%. Then we started looking at why the other faculty aren't engaging with the sponsored research. Then we tried to resolve the problems and involve them through various incentive mechanisms, through various appraisal mechanisms. Now, at the time I left, about 75% of faculty were engaged in a sponsored research kind of a project. So I think this is my last slide. To me, it's an opportunity to make a change, and it's not that these positions, are there's so much of respect and all that, and more than that, it's an opportunity. You can actually do good things by being in those positions. Role of leadership cannot be undermined. Without a good leader, there can only be anarchy and underperformance in an institution. So leaders are very, very important for this. Leadership today, running a large IIT like IIT Delhi with a very strong Senate is all about consensus building. And I always said this in Senate meetings that none of us is better than all of us. So we all need to together take decisions and all of that. And so that was very important, and a lot of good suggestions came from them. And once people see that you are delivering and you mean business, I think people fall in line. And regular communication with your stakeholders is important. Set very clear and concise goals. So I wrote mails to all faculty, all at least once in 2 months. That was my frequency. And it was because I thought, if you need to improve rankings, they need to know what they need to do to improve rankings. Finally, improving rankings means improving certain parameters in the ranking. And that, unless you convey that to your faculty, it's not going to happen. So therefore, we said, please write more papers, please target these kind of journals, file more patents, whatever you need to do, perception, please try to, publish more of your work and talk to press reporters. So we hired a PRO. IIT Delhi never even had a public relations officer. So we hired a PRO, we built a PR team, and then we started them to focus on the research happening in IIT, write newspaper articles, and then work with these reporters closely, have more news articles published. These are all very important, whether we like it or not. That perception is now playing a very important role for our institutions, and we need structured and institutional mechanisms to do that. So and then the reward system works better in motivating people. This punishing people is very difficult. In IIT, to punish somebody, the director actually will need to work more than how much the faculty member suffers, because it's a long process to punish anybody. Removing anybody is even out of question. So therefore there is no point in going after negativity and pursuing that negativity. Rather focus on the positive things and we start incentivizing the positive behavior. I can tell you, more and more people will fall in line and for those incentives. We started at IIT Delhi during my time. We had about 10-15 institutional chair positions. During my time, we went up to 70 chairs. 10% of faculty at IIT Delhi can have a chair professor position. The chair position, IIT was paying 10,000 rupees per month earlier. We increased it to 25,000 rupees per month plus 2 lakh rupees every year as the contingency. For the 25,000 rupees per month, there was so much of intense competition, and that made people move up, in whatever activity they were doing. We said 1 crore from alumni will endow one chair. That's all what is needed. With 1 crore endowment, you can actually institute a chair, and you earn about 5 lakh interest, and that 5 lakh rupees will support a chair. So we raised about 70 chairs. We created about 50 chairs during my time. 15, 16 were already there. And that 10% faculty, that made a lot of difference to reward system. We started with alumni help, lot of faculty awards for research, faculty awards for teaching. I think that sort of incentives again, made many things work very well. Top-down initiatives are key enablers. I think telling faculty to do things, to 600 faculty, 700 faculty doing 600 different things is not going to add up. So we need to define clear directions. You need to give those grand challenges. You need to connect them together and define the problems. So that to a large extent is very important in an Indian kind of a setup, because our success in all these missions, space, any of this you take is because of that mission mode and top-down kind of a thing. So you need to tie everybody with a problem, then they will find solution to that problem. While bottom-up enablement is good, top-down planning and execution are very critical in institutions like ours. That's what I think. And understanding the institutional strengths are also important. IIT Delhi's strength lied in, IIT Delhi's strength was in entrepreneurship. Once I figured it out, once I figured out why IIT Delhi is doing so well in entrepreneurship, there were so many schemes we launched to support students, support faculty, and support everyone who wants to start a company. And because I saw that, in fact, during my time, we even kept aside 15 crores of IIT internal money to invest in startups. We wanted to be the equity investors or angel investors. Early stage companies, you invest money because if one of those companies turns into a Flipkart, you don't have to go to government for money anymore. So that was we actually kept aside 15 crores as investments for the things, because in my goal to diversify our financial sources, I thought the investments in startups can be a good game changer kind of a thing. So that also we started doing very aggressively. I think, at the end of the day, I have been pitching for this. This is my last slide. Institutional autonomy is very essential, and a good financial model is very critical. Our institutions don't have a financial model. Because of the lack of financial model, we run to government for all the money. Autonomy and financial model will take Indian institutions to the next level. In NEP actually talks about all of that, the national education policy, but nobody, talks about this particular aspect of it. I think passion, patience, perseverance. If you want to run an institution, you need them in abundant measure. I mean, you cannot do without them. You need to have a lot of passion, lot of patience. Nothing will happen overnight. Lot of perseverance. If you want to give up, you will have enough reasons to give up anything. But I think, you persevere and, things eventually happen. So there are still good people in our system. I'll stop here. I think I would have taken more time than that, but I'm sorry.
No problem, sir. It's fantastic. Wonderful, sir.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic, sir. Wonderful. Excellent talk. So, Jaitley, sir, are you there?
Yes, sir.
The stage is yours now for question and answer session for 10-15 minutes.
Professor Ramgopal Rao, sir, I tell you, words fail me in conveying my thanks to you. It was remarkable. And though you have exceeded time as per our standard, but let me tell you, I felt as if I should keep listening to you. And that is the remarks I am getting from many more also. Everybody is so extremely happy with your presentation, sir. And it has been recorded. Somebody is asking whether it will be available. Yes, it will be available on the website of our Partha Ghosh Academy of Leadership. So you can definitely have it. There's no problem. So all that information will be available. Now the house is open for some question answers. There is one question, sir. Like we used to have foreign students even during BTech time when I was there. Our senior 5-6 batches, they had foreign students. Even after that also we had a few years. But suddenly one day we came to know no more foreign students for the BTech. Now, if we restart, see, as such, we are having reservations, as you said, around 80% if you include the 20% quota for the girls. Even if I remove that, 60% are coming under some reservation or the other. If just 1 or 2% we get foreign students, our ranking will jump straight away. And you get the best one, of course. You have got so many countries. IIT brand is much bigger today than it was in 70s. So you will get much better cream from all over the world. Views, sir.
I mean, let me tell you, the real story behind that. At IIT, IITs have been conducting JEE advanced exam in 5 different countries outside India. And until now, not a single student has ever qualified the JEE advanced examination to join IITs. The only time it happened was in IIT Delhi about 4 years ago. That was a Korean student, right, who actually cleared the JEE advanced exam and came into IIT Delhi. And that student was covered in Times of India front page. That the first ever student, a foreign origin student, is actually a Korean student. But when you figure out what, the student actually did 11th and 12th in India, and then went to Kota, did the coaching. Their parents were actually, diplomats here, and they went through all the rigor and to get it. But then the problem that happened, he joined IIT Delhi and then was doing quite decently in the first year. Then I think in Korea, they have to do military service. And then the student said, I have to go away for 2 years. Now in IITs, we don't even know how to give somebody time away for 2 years. Now the student has left. I don't know now whether he has come back or not, but that's the story of one actual foreign student, entering our institutions. But the problem, is of course tracking this exam is next to impossible. And I mean, even if you, in fact, there was a lot of demand from alumni in in California, the Silicon Valley, to actually start a JEE center there. They wanted JEE advanced examination to be conducted in the Bay Area. So we agreed for that during my time when I was a chairman. We agreed for that. Of course, COVID came, so we couldn't do that. But they will also write the exam in the night time and all that, which are other practical kind of difficulties. But some alumni said, they said, if you bring JEE advanced here with so many Indians diaspora there, the coaching institutes will also come to San Francisco. And then, so that was what some alumni had in mind. You start conducting JEE advanced in Bay Area, all these quota institutes will also come to Bay Area. So let us, take over things kind of a thing. So that's the only way, unfortunately, you can, do that. And for a foreign student to clear JEE advanced, with a normal sort of learning is difficult now.
Sir, for our reserve category, we bring down that JEE, that general criteria to little bit lower levels. So with little bit same level, the lower levels, I think some foreign students may be able to get in.
So the problem that happens is there are people of Indian origin. There are so many of them. Now, if you know, how do you judge who is a foreigner, who is an Indian? And so all these seats will be taken up by our Indian students only. And you cannot judge somebody that based on skin color, you are foreigner, you are Indian. We cannot do that. So I think if you go by the passport, you will end up with a lot of foreign students, but they're all, people of Indian origin. That's what.
Correct. One suggestion has come, sir, that your presentation should be shared with the UGC chairman. That is one of the suggestions. And another is amazing talk. Professor Rao, so informative. Prabhat Mitra says. Anil Rai Dubeji says, yes, that UGC chairman. Manan Sangvi, he says, I was going through the research papers and conferences conducted by IT institutes. I would request as to know why majority of the institutes have conferences in December only.
Because
and not twice a year.
That's a very interesting question. So these conferences are organized by, by all of you. And December is a good time for you to travel to India. So that's what is behind.
Yes. Can you comment on the Indian contribution to high impact papers in top-notch journals? What is the ratio?
Yeah, in fact, there is a study recently. I saw that India is ranked 8th in the world right now for those high impact factor top, 5% kind of papers. If you look at, India is at the 8th position. So things are improving. Out of this volume will also come quality. I think expecting that we will only write nature papers and no other papers is not going to happen. So I think the volumes are increasing. India is one of the fastest growing countries in research. We are growing at 11% right now as against the world average of 4%. So I think because we are growing, we are third right now in the world in terms of research output, right? But 8th in terms of the quality, the citations and other things. So.
Our ISRO's success yesterday is still very fresh in the minds of the people. So Prabhat Mitra wants to know what percentage of ISRO scientists and engineers are from IITs. My guess is as BTechs, very few. MTechs and PhD, plenty.
There will be many MTech students in ISRO.
Yes, sir. MTech, plenty. But BTech are very few.
BTechs, yeah. If ISRO pays, fintech salaries, they will all join ISRO. They have nothing against ISRO. It's just that they want higher salaries.
Pranav Patel has shared the YouTube link for the IIT Delhi Endowment Fund song, so people can just copy it and use it. And I think we are running out of time. It's going to be 9 o'clock. I'll request Partha Ghosh, sir, a few words from your side, sir, the founder chairman of Partha Ghosh Academy of Leadership.
Well, I think you summarized it very well. Professor Rao, it was a brilliant expose of what you have shared with us. And I would like to take 3 points from you. First part, you described the real challenge of India when you talked about lack of self-respect, lack of teamwork, lack of aspiration. I think that was very fundamental. And that's why we have begun this leadership movement. that we have to learn how to be humble, how to respect each other, how to solve problems. And that's where we need your support and encouragement to take the Academy of Leadership forward, not only for our country, for the world, because we need a different model. So that you have underscored beautifully. But more interesting was, I have always viewed centers of education as fountainhead of ideas, innovation, and inspiration. And to that, you have added the 3 Ps: passion, patience, and perseverance. So I think there's a model emerging here. If we could create a paper with you, which Academy of Leadership would work with you to bring out this concept of 3 Is and 3 Ps, that how could this be fused to create the new education movement in the nation? You're right, NEP is NAP, but NEP will only become practical when we can remove those, soft, if you will, the cultural constraints. So we would like to work with you, and may I, on behalf of IIT Kharagpur and the Academy of Leadership, invite you to work on that paper, which we could share with the Education Ministry, as many have suggested, because it was your brilliance which came out. But the third point is the most important point that you made, and I had tears in my eyes. Having laid out the problems and the challenges and the constraints, but within the IIT Delhi system, you achieved so much, so much. So it is a message for all the IITians. Professor Vashti is nodding the head. For Professor Vashti, the message for you, message for every IITian, that in spite of the constraints, you could do a lot. We have to be innovative. We have to find new ways, new mechanisms, so that we could start. And that is about leadership. So I would like to end by saying your presentation was ultimately definition of leadership. And the way I have defined leadership, as you may know, I've been working on leadership for the last 30 years across the world, from Japan to the United States, from Sweden to Australia. And I define leadership is a skill to influence change with or without title. Title is given to you by someone, taken away by someone. But your inner conscience, the power that you draw from inner conscience, is what through which you influence change. And I feel you have done that. So may I salute you as you have really, really presented yourself as a model of leadership in a world which is highly constraining. I mean, I loved your first slide where you talked about all the problems. If I speak about it, people would say he lives outside, he's criticizing India. But it's coming from you. And I feel it all the time, in interfacing with it. Everyone knows everything. Whether I'm to go to North Block or South Block, everyone knows everything. Partha, we have nothing to learn. That is not what we need. We have to be the humble student. And I think one of the points we make in the Academy of Leadership, we want to make everyone student-like. We have to continuously learn. The world is changing. We have to change, and in the process contribute towards the change. So with that, I would like to thank you from the bottom of the heart, and we will work with you, Professor Rao, to commit. When Ellen Birla started BITS, I want to share a story with you. Ellen Birla, I went to Hindi High School, which is now called Birla High School in Calcutta. The year they started, I was joining IIT Kharagpur, but Ellen Birla called me to his home in Alipur in Calcutta. He said, Partha, you should go to BITS.
Oh, I see.
And he explained to me, that is the year BITS was starting. And I was 15-year-olds graduating, but I ended up going to IIT Kharagpur. But I feel what you also said, BITS Pilani is becoming a model. Maybe you've got a bit more freedom there to do interesting things. So I would like to see Academy of Leadership works with you to set up a leadership center at BITS Pilani also. And Professor Vashti, may I request you to work with Professor Rao.
Sure, definitely, sir.
Yes. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Commander,
Now,
thank you.
Pranav, I think now, sir, we'd like to request Pranav Patel to say a vote of thanks, and please stay back. We'll let you have one group photograph, virtual group photograph, everyone switching on the camera. Pranav. Yep.
Sure, sir. Thank you very much. We shall have the group photos, so request all to put on the camera. Meanwhile, I'll take this opportunity to thank everyone, especially Professor Rao, who's spent his valuable time giving us an amazing input on challenges that we face in the academia, in India in particular today. I'm sure it's not only India, there's global challenges that academia faces, but then India in particular, and his amazingly vast experience and rich experience which he has shared with us. So a lot to learn from you, a lot which we have seen in your slides and the examples which you have shared. I was continuously taking notes in terms of so many things which was coming in as a download for us. So thank you very much. Thank you to all our participants, and especially Partha sir, who is the founder of the Partha Ghosh Academy of Leadership at IIT Kharagpur, Commander Jetli, Professor Vashnik, and everyone else who is here. We do this lecture every month. So next month, we are going to have another interesting lecture. Right now, we're looking at, I would say, leadership in academia. We focus on different kind of leadership. We've done leadership in technology. We will look at leadership in economics. So we would have Professor Balbir Singh Singhal, who is Professor Emeritus of Economics at MIT, who is also an specialist on Kautilya Arthashastra, which is also an area of interest for me, but he's going to be there next month. Same time, on 24th is what we will be doing. We'll be sending out details to all of you on your email. Please do join in, and we'll be happy to have you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So for group photograph, let's everyone switch on the camera. Put up, smile please, so we'll take a screenshot. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. So good night, everyone.
Night.
And have a good day.